Hello? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, no, not a problem. I'll keep you posted on what goes on. Okay. Mm-hmm. No, that's fine, Craig. You don't have to explain. Not a problem at all. We'll have a full house anyways, but thank you for calling. Okay. All right. I'll talk to you later. Okay. All right. Yeah, bye.
Hey, George.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Yeah. Where are we at? Right?
Boy, I went through that that statutory, the new statute.
Yeah.
And I appreciated the little. Who did the little overview of it? It was like an 8-page thing. You had like a slide.
Oh, that was Janelle out at the Northwest Cog.
Yeah. Okay. And that was good. But I'll tell you what. That's a big piece of legislation
no
they put
kidding.
through. And I mean, I wasn't on the commission back when that was going on, but boy, there's a lot in there. I mean, she did hit some of the major highlights, but
Yeah,
there's
look
still,
at the whole thing.
I mean, that's like it's almost like a complete,
Rewrite.
hey Pete, a rewrite of Section 8,
Yeah, I agree.
which is a huge,
Oh, I agree.
I'm looking through, I'm like, did Jordan know all this? This is,
But they only have an opportunity to get out of two things.
yeah, exactly. So, I don't know if,
We'll talk about it.
somebody's gonna be, it was, yeah, whether Kevin's up on it, all that, but I thought it was interesting.
Yeah. no. That's why we have representation, but.
Yeah,
No, exactly.
but, and then the requirement that we be trained. Finally? You know how long I've been working on that? Like 30 years.
But you know what?
I don't know what it's gonna look like,
There are a
but,
number of us that take that seriously anyways without having to. have
yes,
somebody
of
there
course,
to do
of
it,
course,
you know? I-
of course. But,
Well, every 2 years, you got that day-long process with.
and they're gonna come up with some sort of, yeah, but now it's a requirement and it's like,
Well,
wow.
it's a January
2023, yeah,
But no, it doesn't make sense not to do that.
yeah,
Too many important decisions being
yeah,
made
of
here in
course,
these
of course,
land use.
of course. So, boy, there's a lot of stuff in this, in this new statute. I'll put this on your desk.
I just shut my door off. Thank you.
Sorry.
So I found a second one there with my name on it today, so somebody did.
Last time?
time.
For you.
Yes.
These people are from there, I think they wanna speak to you. Maybe I'll get that.
Right, it's a-
Like, you have to decide whether or not you are going to accept the application based on whether it's complete, and if not, issue them guidance.
Okay. All right.
This is, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Pam, do you have a bigger plan than this that you could read?
I have one.
Realize that it's going
You didn't bring your other pair of glasses, George?
directly across the street from that is Lake Winchester. You
The
realize.
surgical ones?
I'll link that with you, you can have it, Drew.
Well,
Yeah,
this
it's the
is-
one I have, the only one.
yeah, no, I understand. I'm not
So,
gonna
I
go
see.
anywhere. This is for the discussion, clear cover? It's clear cover.
Yeah, this is it.
What's built in the house?
All of it, are?
The houses.
The whole thing?
I don't know, clear cut another whole.
It's this map, it's this. But this is excessive, but this map pertains to that. And,
Oh, is that right?
yeah, I'm sorry, this map pertains to this, but this is what they want you to do.
Which we don't have an application for.
You do, but you just don't have a map specifically for that parcel.
Oh, I see, so this goes with this. This goes with this.
This, yeah, but
Yeah.
it's for this piece here.
Okay,
It didn't,
but, I mean, this was in our packet,
It
this was
was,
on the
yep,
desk, so this
yep.
goes with this.
yep,
Yeah,
but this is
okay.
what I mean, like, this is what I'm
Yeah,
showing George, what you're gonna have to make a determination. It's not for this piece, it's for that piece. It isn't
and this is for,
this piece.
oh, okay,
This
all
is
right.
for this up here.
Uh-huh. Where's, oh, there's West Road, okay.
You got a bigger map this year?
Pam just pointed out that the application is going for this.
Yeah.
I didn't get a new email from Felix. I don't know that he's gonna be here tonight.
Craig just called me. He had just an issue medically, so he can't make it tonight again.
Well, I got four can start with four.
Yeah.
So Pam, so this is for that front section? This thing? Can't even read it. Hey, George.
Hello.
Oh, okay, so we have that too.
Tammy, there was no packet for me downstairs.
Well, that was because,
You got it.
That's because you never picked it up.
Yes, I do.
It had the wrong name on it.
oh, that's all
Hey, this one's yours.
technical stuff.
There was two with my name on it.
They like you so much.
joins Winchester Road in your town.
They get it, sounds familiar.
Winchester Road comes down from 272 to Lake Winchester.
Right.
West Road, it goes up by Lake Winchester.
Okay.
And then it joins into Winchester Road in Norfolk.
Okay. Yeah, it sounded familiar to me, I couldn't picture it.
Yeah. That's a Rocky Ridge Road, is a private road off of there that's,
Yes.
there's only 2 houses. Directly across from Lake Winchester.
That's helpful.
Saw a piece of forecast, projection, which is now our accurate forecast on winter. So it'd be a little warmer, only maximum of 12 inches of snow this winter.
Yeah.
Really? You think?
I don't know whether it was directed at us or someplace.
Oh.
They said,
At
they
us,
said the
yeah.
northeast.
Except here.
Yeah.
I told you, I bought a new snowboard, so we can't get any snow.
Yeah.
That's Monday.
Yes,
Hey,
sir.
John.
Monday, yeah.
Better put plows on already.
Yep.
Yeah, as we hit over 60 today.
I know, wasn't that nice?
It's only gonna last for a couple
The
more
lull,
days.
the
I
lull
spent
before the
the day on
storm,
the
yeah.
tractor out in the field, bush hogging all day. It was
I'll
beautiful.
take it.
It was beautiful today.
Right under the wire, like usual.
Hey,
Thanks, everybody.
Good, how are you?
great to meet you.
Good to be here.
Called again.
Oh, that's too bad.
He was doing good. I talked to him this morning, actually. He was all set to come.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I've got an appointment with Josh on this stuff that we talked about at the last meeting,
Okay. Good.
Wednesday. Craig wanted to attend it, so. See,
Hope to see him again soon.
for me.
Hope to see him again soon.
Yeah, no, he's actually doing quite well.
That's good.
Yeah. Can't keep him down.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure.
Rubber ball, he bounces back. Can't,
Wait, I'll tell you,
No.
he's motivated.
yeah, he is.
I don't know too many people like him.
Now, Dan, you all set here? Get going? You all set? Okay, everybody ready?
Yep.
All right, for this evening, it's the November 8th normal planning and zoning meeting. As far as the roll call, I'm George Clausen. Craig Sandin is absent excused. John Cooney to my right, Peter Marchand to my left, Willie Platt to his left, Troy Lemire is an alternate, is at the end, Charlene Lavoy, and Felix, we haven't got any confirmation. So we've got, Craig's position is open. So I've not seated you. Are you?
No,
you're
I
not ready?
haven't been seated yet.
Okay, so I'm gonna seat you tonight, Charlene, for Craig's position. All right. So, we're ready to go. Agenda review, anything on the agenda that needs to be added or changed? Okay, any other business before us? Anything showed up? All right, public hearing is number 5. Consider opting out of the accessory dwelling unit ADU requirements and parking limitations outlined in Public Act 2129. Pam, that required advertisements. Did you want to just
Yeah,
have that available?
I did run it, and it was, if you wanna open the public hearing, and I can pull it up, it was advertised advertised, twice in the Republican American.
Okay, we'll just want to enter that in the record when we go through it. So that's it's a 28-page document, Public Act 2129, which is the House Bill of 6107. I think everybody's received a copy of it. That was put on the website too, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
Okay. All right. So we'll open the public hearing. And you folks here for this other discussion on,
Yeah.
okay. So do you have any information you want to add to this? We've got a public hearing with regards to this public act. And, no, okay. Then let's go around the table. Everybody, alternates as well during the public hearing. Any questions about the two issues that we have? It's the accessory apartment and the parking, the two issues that we have an opportunity to opt out of. Any comments? Troy and I went to the COG meeting and
Could we hear about that a little bit first? Yeah, there must have been some discussion within COG about it.
well, I think I got everybody the
Yeah.
handout to review with regards to it. So that was just the highlights of it. There's a lot.
But I mean, what is the, I guess what I'm asking, if it's appropriate or not, what is the sense of the other communities in the county on this?
Well, let's just a little bit of history. I guess 3 years ago, we passed our new zoning regulations. Prior to that, we had no accessory apartment regulation here that approved it. Not to say that some were put in without approval and without permits. And we reviewed it here internally, and then we put it to public hearing, and it was agreed that we should add that to our regulations. This thing that came down from Hartford is one size fits all. And there are a lot of communities that apparently do not, like we didn't permit them, and they want to do that to basically make it, how did you term it, Pam? A right? It would be, anybody could come in and get a zoning permit and then file for a building permit. They wouldn't have to go through any other step in the approval process with planning and zoning.
Yeah, advance as of right activity.
It'll be as of right. So, frankly, my personal opinion is that it's one step in the wrong direction to take local control around what we have for land use and so forth. So I'm totally against, this doesn't seem to be a big deal. But on the other hand, we're already covering it, and we're covering it through a special permit, which gives us the opportunity to scrutinize the arrangement for parking and the proper access.
So at least there's this option to opt out
That's
by
correct.
communities.
That's
Okay.
correct. And normally when the state, or when any of these things happen, it's usually, there's a kicker to it, means how do we force you folks to do it even though we can't tell you that? It's usually because of money. And at least at this point from this Janelle Mullen from the COG, she said that there is no indication that there's any penalty for opting out of it. Frankly, I think the better approach would have been to bring this up when we have our annual or biannual meeting, to propose a better education of the boards to go ahead and cover this, which I think is a necessary component of the housing availability here in the town. But they didn't. They wanted to force it down our throats. So I'm totally against it. I feel I'm going to vote in favor of opting out of it.
But we already have regs on this topic.
We do. We're
So
covered.
it's not like we've not, that we're
No.
not addressing it.
No.
It's already in our regs before
Exactly.
this even passed, so,
Exactly.
yeah.
It's allowed in 6 of your 8 zones already.
Yeah.
This public act would allow it anywhere.
Everywhere,
Yeah,
as of right, as
yes,
you say.
as
Okay.
of right.
Yeah.
So, the only areas that it's not allowed in is the PI zone, which makes sense. And then I want to say it was Town Gateway.
I'd have to read, I
Yeah,
didn't look at.
but I mean, it's allowed.
Yeah,
So
we've covered that.
let me
piece.
ask you if you know this, George. So it's quite a process to opt out, which we can accomplish, but I went through this Public Act today.
Yeah.
And what I didn't see, it requires the Board of Selectmen to also approve and so forth.
Right.
Which I doubt we'll have any problem
We'll-
with.
We'll send what we do to
But
them, yeah.
What if at some point a different Board of Selectmen decides to what's the process going backwards? Is there one, or once you've done it, it's done?
As far as I know, it's done,
Okay.
yeah.
Till they change the rules.
Yeah, until they come up
That's right.
with, yeah.
Could be next year, this year.
Thinking like a
That's an
lawyer.
unusual thing, right? You don't
Yeah.
like the outcome, so you change the rules of the game.
Well,
And that's-
I'm
and that's-
I'm definitely with you that we
Okay.
should opt out of this, and we're already doing it within our regs.
Yeah, that's, I
We
think,
should opt
when when you look at some of these things that this group has put forward, there's so much here that we've covered in our zoning.
Well, that's great, so,
Well, I think that's a sign of our involvement here, and the way we try to talk about the education part of it, which I totally support. But we've been doing that voluntarily, but I'll tell you, there's a lot of commissions that I've been in front of that you wonder what planet these commissioners are coming from.
They've stonewalled a lot of it,
Yeah,
a lot of these
oh,
towns.
yeah.
And some towns, while they might allow accessory units, it has to be attached to the house.
yeah, this was like,
Winchester, well, our accessory units, they can be attached, or they can be a totally separate
Separate,
building on the parcel. So, I mean, there is already flexibility inherent in the regs already with this.
seems kind of straightforward to me.
Yeah, I just, it's like anything else, it's 169 towns, so how do they make it so it's gonna go across the state and get everybody's attention? That's how they do it. So, what's your point on this too, Joe?
Well, I'm been around long enough that I got to work with us on the zoning rules and rewriting and doing, I think we did a tremendous amount of work, and I'm satisfied with the work we did, and on that alone, I think that's enough of a reason that I would want to opt out. I don't think we really need it,
Yeah.
based on the work we've already done.
Yeah, and I think that part of this thing for and I'm a little over 18 now, but you get some of these things that come in that don't seem like they're that much of a problem, and the next thing you know, it kind of opens the floodgates. And I'd rather send the message back to Hartford and say, why don't you, if you got something on your mind, come out and talk to us. We've got a representative here in town. I never heard a word from this, about this thing.
Yeah.
And it should have been before our commission to be able, before they even went out and voted on the thing, to even talk about it, to try to,
Yeah.
do we need this? Is it appropriate or not? We didn't hear anything, so. Peter?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, everything you've said is, we've got things covered here that allows stuff, so why should we be letting them, dictate?
Yeah.
So,
Will?
We've got it covered in the zoning regs, and there's really no need to make it one size.
Yeah,
It's special permits, so we might as well just continue.
Good. Troy?
Yeah, I mean, when me and you attended that meeting, the consensus was that pretty much everyone was looking into opting out. And I don't think letting a government agency take over zoning over a town is a good idea ever, so.
No, I agree.
I mean, eventually, down the road.
Well, who knows, but let's cover it
But
where
for,
we are
for
today.
now,
Yeah.
I'd say, I'm in agreement.
Okay. Any other comments? Because we could just make a motion to close the public hearing.
has there been any discussion with any selectmen on this, or anything
Well,
else? I'm
I've
just
talked to
wondering
Candy that was
Okay.
coming up, and we were
Yeah.
gonna be talking about it, and.
where they kind of stood on it, because if they've got to back it,
Well, I think they
Or
will.
approve it,
but,
okay.
yeah.
Well, I think they have the final vote, no matter
Yeah,
what.
they do, no matter what.
Yeah, it's gotta be both boards, it's gotta be two-thirds of each board, I
Right.
think. Yeah.
Okay.
I make a motion to close.
Before you close
Oh,
it, you just want to open it to the public.
Oh,
I did,
I thought he did.
I did,
yeah.
and we didn't hear anything from anyone.
Oh, I didn't realize you had to open it.
He
to
asked
the
at the
Oh, yeah.
beginning.
Yeah, started it that way.
He
So
asked
I make
that
a motion to
if they were
close the
interested.
public hearing.
I'll second that.
Okay, Peter's
they're
got a
not.
second. Okay, and this is, the discussion is again by seated members. Any other discussions on the motion with regards to closing the public hearing?
Do you want to, are you going to take parking up as a separate agenda item? Or do you want to discuss the parking? It was listed as one agenda item.
Oh, okay, all right.
Oh,
My-
okay, so
my-
hold off on the
Before you close
motion.
the public
Hold on,
hearing.
Okay.
All right, so the next part of this is the parking. And that's, let's see.
Yeah, can you do the same thing, George, just to give a brief, where did this come from?
Well-
I saw it in the statute, what's the,
Basically, it allows them just to have, you only need one parking space for accessory apartments.
I see.
That's it,
Yeah.
plain and simple. Instead of needing two, depending on the number of bedrooms or anything else, they only need one, regardless of the size of the accessory apartment,
Okay.
the way I interpret
Now,
it.
why would they do that? That's, but,
Why
Make it
do
as
they do
easy as
anything?
possible.
yeah, all right, well,
That's an excellent question.
I try to think about the
I know.
policy behind
Well,
these
par-
things.
part of it is.
There's no logic.
Well, some towns are requiring a lot more parking and making it even much more difficult. I mean, we've got single-family homes in town that have driveways and don't use them, and they park in their front yard. And that's in violation of our regulations.
Right.
But we have a lot of homes too that don't have any driveways, so they park in the street. In our neighborhood, I've got a neighbor that they've got, like tonight, they've got at least 5 cars there. 2 of them in the driveway, 3 of them in the road, and a lot of times during the winter. I don't know how the plows get around. Because the selectmen eliminated that part of it years ago, where, overnight parking, so. But it is what it is, and I think that the way we have a special permit for these kinds of things is that you look at the specific application and look at how the primary facility is set up, how the parking is for that, and how will this impact that, and keep the parking on its own property rather than utilize the street. Because you look at Highland Lake, where you could be putting in an accessory apartment in the Highland Lake zone. And you look during the summer, it's hard to get emergency vehicles around that lake because of the influx of people coming in to enjoy the facilities and so forth. So why make it a situation where it's all year round, that you don't have a place to put the car, so.
And not for nothing, I think that your zoning regs, the parking table already meets what they're
Yeah.
saying that you can't exceed in terms of restrictions or requirements. But again, if you don't take this opportunity to opt out, you needed to opt out from this legislation before January of 2023. And if you don't, even though it's not a big deal because it's not that much different than what you
Yeah.
already require, by not opting out, you'd forfeit your right to, and you don't have a lot of time to consider how this might affect mixed-use
Yeah.
buildings.
Yeah.
You just can't, you can wrap your head around accessory apartments, you can wrap but you would need more time, and towns are generally doing the same thing.
Yeah,
Just,
well,
you
that's-
want that local, rural.
But I appreciate your looking into what else is going on in our community, surrounding communities as well. Yeah, I think we thought long and hard about our regulations, and we had a consultant from Cincinnati that helped us with this, and we went through a lot of discussion about each and every part of our regulations and how we could simplify it, and also how to make it realistic so that we're not making it a regulation such that it keeps people from, developing in the community, so.
So it's really the same argument for this as for the previous, that it's
true.
already been addressed within our existing regulations,
Yes.
and we should opt out of the state coverage.
Yep. Anybody else have any contributing comments on that part of it?
Nothing.
Okay. So, you want to
So
entertain
now,
a motion to
a
close?
motion to close the public hearing?
Yeah, second.
Okay, any discussion on the motion to close? All in favor? Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is number 6, which is actually, let's vote on this. I think Pam has got, I know she has.
So are we doing this in 2 separate motions?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll make a motion to opt out of Public Act 21-29, Section 6, subsection F, accessory dwelling unit provisions, and to communicate this to the Board of Selectmen.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Peter, second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Thank you. And there's a second.
I'll make a motion to opt out of Public Act 21-29, Section 5, parking limitation provisions for the dwelling units, and to communicate this to the Board of Selectmen.
Do we have a second? Second for Willie? Okay, any discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion? Unanimous. Thank you. All right, let's get that. Aside. Did you have your motion, your form?
I
They
do.
want to sign it, and we'll pass it around and have it for the record.
Okay. Yeah, let me use yours, because I wrote on mine, of course.
Here, I got
So
a
both
copy.
of them? Sign both of them?
Keep going that way. Yep.
Oh,
Willie, you seconded this one, right? So
Oh.
you want to sign on that
Oh,
second?
did- yep.
oh, and the other one's, okay, the one.
Yeah, I've got to sign hers, that's, I second that.
Got it. Then do you sign in there too, in the in favor
Yes,
part?
yes, you do,
Okay.
yeah.
There you go. Something new every day.
And this goes to Pam?
Yes. Thank you. Okay. Item 7, new business PZC 21-09, special permit, location 3 Rocky Ridge Drive, applicant owner Wayne Kuzma and D. Kuzma. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Proposal clear cutting of trees with existing slope over 15%. Typically, we would just accept the application and then it'd be a special permit, we'd set a date, but apparently, we're looking at your application that had a pretty extensive detailed map on a larger parcel, and this is apparently the parcel that's aside of that.
We combine the two. With the building lot, we combine them.
Okay, well, this plan doesn't show the definition of the area boundaries of the second lot.
Yeah, it's a rectangle, 200 by 400.
Well, where's,
Rectangular.
okay, well, it's doesn't show it on the map I have that was in the packet.
Well, I got the map of the subdivision when Matt Brown originally did it.
Okay, so that hasn't been submitted with the application. Well, I see this, and I can't
Well,
read
this here,
it.
this is a 200 scale.
Okay, what, just clear, would you, for the tape, just say your name and address, please?
Wayne Cosmo. This map here was from Matt Brown when he originally did the subdivision. It has all the three building lots. Plus the rest of the lots that he has subdivided. And the map that I've given you shows my driveway with the contour lines going through the driveway for the excavator to be able to establish the driveway, the cuts he had made. But these contour lines went through the whole property. So those are the actual contour lines.
So this is the map that was submitted with the application?
That was the map that was submitted with the application.
So this photocopy was off of this?
I don't know, you'd have to ask the applicant.
Because it looks like this is a pencil drawing of an extension of a line from the back. This is the map that Pam has,
Yeah.
okay?
Where's the pencil line?
Well, it looks like that's defining the edge of the property.
Oh, yeah, so it'd be, you see the top pin? That's 200 feet, the bottom's also 200 feet.
Okay, we need in order for this to proceed, so we can set up a special hearing, we need a map that shows the actual survey that defines that parcel that you're talking about.
And I imagine you want the levels of disturbance, because with the whole 15% slope,
Yes.
you're gonna be hard pressed to find any lots in town that don't have some area within them with a 15%
Well,
slope.
Pam,
That-
excuse me.
One moment. So the areas of disturbance, it may not meet 15% as he's depicted, 12% as he's calculated it. And that's true. If you have a flat area and you measure, you're gonna balance it off. So it's really important to call out the disturbed area and for the commission to give staff guidance. If any part of the parcel has a 15% slope, according to staff's, layman's scaling, should the commission be reviewing it? You're inclined to, we were gonna err on the side of caution in the office based on the last meeting. And so that's what you have. So when they come in, we're looking at it and yeah, sure, when you average out the whole site, it may not be 15%, but there are areas within, especially when you're talking about clear cutting, even if it's a small area, the zoning regulations call for no exception to a small area that might exceed 15%. Follow me? So maybe we're gonna come to make a decision that the zoning regs are not narrow enough, but currently the way they are, if there's any, it's very important for developers, even if it's in the case of a single family, if there's no development plan but for the clear cutting of the trees, to call out the disturbed area, meaning where they're cutting trees, even if they're leaving the stumps. Because the way the regs read, they
Okay.
gotta come before you folks.
All right, Pam, what's the,
I wanna say 85,
You say page 85?
I wanna,
I had it last 2 weeks ago, but I didn't look at it tonight again.
it might be 53.
No, it's page 30.
Yeah.
That's under D, other generally applicable development regulations, and it's number 5, steep slope regulations. And this says the town finds that alteration of steep slope areas poses a potential risk of erosion, sedimentation, landslides, and degradation of scenic views. Accordingly, the following requirements are hereby imposed in areas with slopes exceeding, it just says areas with slopes exceeding 15%. Doesn't say percentage of the size of the property. A, No permit shall be granted for the development of or construction on any lot that involves the disturbance of slopes greater than 15% unless a special permit is approved and issued, subject to the following conditions. I, adequate erosion control and drainage measures shall be put in place to avoid erosion and sedimentation during or after construction, and all erosion control and stormwater management measures shall comply with all applicable laws and guidelines. And I, adequate measures to minimize the clear cutting of trees or the clearing of shrubs and other natural vegetation. B, clear cutting trees on or within 1,000 feet of any ridge line is prohibited. C, no disturbance including clear cutting trees or clearing of vegetation or construction of driveways shall be permitted on any slope of 25% or greater, except as may be necessary for public safety or public utilities. So that's what we have in our regulation. So in order for us to make an evaluation of what you're proposing, what Pam described, first of all, we have to have an accurate survey of the area you're talking about. It looks like you've got a full topography done on it. So if that's included with the area survey that's a current survey, then we can make a determination. And if you look back, and if you don't have a copy of this, you can see it online, or we can get you of the regulation. Because what we have to do is we have to make our determination based on your compliance with this.
You understand what I'm doing with it though, right?
You're trying to make pasture area?
Grazing and planting, non-tillable planting.
Well, that's fine, but this covers whatever activity in the town of
It's for
Winchester.
farming.
Well, that's fine, and that's a wonderful thing to be doing. I think we need more of it. So we're not trying to prevent it, we're just trying to make sure that we don't have any adverse effects of the surrounding areas as a result of
Well,
it.
I got more than enough experience in this field, probably more than most people. I haven't touched anything. How about I invite the committee out in about another month, and you're gonna see the water running, but it's not from my property. It's from 3 lots up, follows a conduit line down to the pole, floods the road, and over since I've been there, I dug a trench all the way from their lot, all the way to my catch basin in front of my property, to keep the ice out of the road. Because it used to get like 6 inches thick, and I was afraid that somebody was gonna come around the corner and
Sure.
smash into my telephone pole and take my service out.
Yeah.
So, I made precautions for that, but you're more than welcome to come out. I'll invite you guys out. There's not a drop of water that comes off that property. I've never seen any water come off that property. It all comes from open street.
Okay. We have to comply with what we've got for regulation.
No, I understand, but
So in
I'm
order
saying
for us-
is I don't have a water problem, and I will do what I need to do for erosion control.
In order for us to act, sir, we have to have a survey that's a current survey.
Yep.
It's gotta show the boundary lines of what we're talking about, what Pam mentioned as well, show the area that you're gonna be clearing, and what your intention to do is what you've described. And as long as that's in a complete application, then we'll schedule a public hearing for it. That's all the process it takes. We will review it, and staff will make sure that, from their standpoint, any soil erosion control as a result of, any of the work that you're gonna be doing that's changing the situation that's out there now.
Yep.
That's all we're trying to do.
All right.
So, in order to proceed, normally if it was a complete application, we'd set the public hearing tonight, but we have to get this application complete so we don't waste your time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was very short notice.
No, that's fine. We like to expedite things and get them through as fast as we possibly can. So, if you could do that and get it into PM, and if there's any further questions with regards to it, we have a meeting every 2 weeks, the second and fourth Monday. And so if something comes up and you're not happy with what you're getting from the planning office, you're welcome to come in and discuss it with us as well.
But the next one wouldn't be possible until what, December sometime, is that?
Our next meeting is 2 weeks from tonight.
I don't know if I did.
But we're not setting up a public hearing for that because the application is not complete because of what I've said is
We
missing.
might not need a public hearing. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I don't know. If you look at what I just read on that page, and that's how staff, when you file an application, which we have your application, if it's complete now, as we discussed it, then we're gonna then set a public hearing, and it typically is set in within 2 weeks of that meeting. Okay?
You're saying the survey's not complete. This is not a survey, in other words.
Well, the survey, that's a survey, but it's not in the
It's not-
piece that we're talking about.
Right, it's not complete as to the rest of
That's correct.
the remainder of the property.
Right, the contour lines of the other property.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So if you can do that and get it into the office and so forth, then we'll handle our part and move it forward for a public hearing,
Alrighty.
okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Pass that over to Pam so it stays in the file, please.
Thank you.
The next item is approval of minutes, October 25th, 2021.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of October 25th, 2021.
We have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Let's see, communications, Pam?
Did you want to talk about the email you reported to me about 42 High Street, or did you want to?
Yeah, that's a good point. This property that the town took through blight action, it's on Main Street, and it also has a High Street address. It's
No,
got-
there's two parcels, two separate
parcels.
parts, they're two separate parcels.
Okay, all right. So 42 High Street is, there was a,
Both,
42 High Street was the sender of the email. The subject
Oh, okay,
parcel
right.
of his email was 30 High Street.
okay.
And
All
then
right,
there's
you're right.
one known as 508 Main Street. The town manager has formed a 508 Main Street committee. You'll recall that not a half of the building, but part of the building was demolished under the former town manager.
Yep.
And so, rather than proceed with doing anything with what remains of 508 Main Street, there's a committee of about 10 residents, some staff, to talk about different options for it. An RFP has been put out on that to see, some of the things that they talked about was creating a park, like possibly demoing what remains of 508 Main Street, merging the two town-owned parcels, 30 High Street and 508 Main Street, in some type of park. There's also been discussion about possibly an outdoor seating area that area restaurants could use. This email that we're talking about, you might want to build up the rest of it, and then I can respond.
so, but what's 30 High Street? That's not part of this.
So
document.
30 High Street is in between High Street, if you will. So you have the
Right.
houses that you see on High Street.
Yep.
Then you have a parcel behind that is accessed through a driveway off of High Street. So
Okay.
it's an interior
Yep.
lot
All right.
with a shared right-of-way with many different
Property,
pieces.
Yes,
That
Share that.
house was also demolished.
Right, that's a vacant lot now.
it is.
It's a vacant lot now,
Owned by the town.
By the
owned by
town.
the
Yeah,
town.
okay.
Um,
I got it. Okay. Yeah.
So-
And it's not being used for anything right
No,
now.
but a little background on it, apparently somebody, an investor had purchased the property years ago and then ultimately sold that front of Main Street property. And they were looking to, they thought they were gonna be able to incorporate that where the house was torn down for a parking area, possibly for that front building. That's what I get out of my correspondence.
And I don't know where that has come from. I don't think that the two parcels were ever subdivided. They always existed as separate parcels. They subsequently, in the mid-2000s, were under common ownership, and then conveyed again under common ownership, but they weren't subdivided
No.
illegally. They
weren't.
No, they were
existed.
They were separate owners.
Separate,
Yeah.
separate,
Yep.
Separate owners.
completely, yeah.
Right.
They used to be.
And now they're common owners again, you know, probably for the third link in
But
the
it's still
chain.
two separate parcels, town-owned.
Right.
Well,
And so I think the concern of this resident is that it may be used for parking, and I don't think any potential use that is produced as a result of the RFQ, or RFP rather, will come to this board as part of an 824 referral. Will return back to the Board of Selectmen as part of that same thing, should it go out to, you know, a different owner. And the use, again, will be another opportunity to be reviewed by the town, because whatever gets suggested or planned or proposed for that lot would likely be a special permit, and, you know, it's too soon to really know what will become of that.
No, I totally agree. It's got a long, I mean, I think it's from the 1800s, this right of way that goes
It is,
through
because
the
the
back.
town has contracted
Yeah.
surveyor John DeCara to research that, and
Yeah.
that was definitely
Is that right away
Yes.
off of Main Street?
No,
off of
no,
High
High
Street.
Off of High Street, okay.
That runs in the back of
Gotcha.
536,
Okay.
508, I mean, there has
All
been
right.
Yeah, it
lots
runs
of
right
review.
in back of Kent Pizza,
Yeah,
and
It's,
through
Yeah, yeah,
through those other
okay.
properties there.
it's
Yeah.
where those 55-gallon barrels
yeah,
are on top of the parking lot
Right.
between.
Yeah,
okay, so
Mario's
so
and-
what's then now the email?
Well, no, the email was that there was concern that there was adequate attention given by the town to what uses could this be used for in it, because apparently there's been a huge number of complaints for noise.
from one, not a huge number, from only one property owner.
Right.
And
For
not
over-
stemming
over-
from 30 High Street, because there's nothing there.
No, it's yeah, only one owner for about 20 years.
I don't know, but I've understood that to be true, but not about this parcel. And to speak about this current email about use and how did it get switched to parking, it hasn't.
No, it's.
It's still
the-
zoned as
it's-
towns,
yeah.
as a single-family residence, even though
Oh.
there's no
It's in the town
residence.
center zone, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
All that property is.
And, you know, with cars being parked on it, that was the first I've heard
Oh,
that
so
anyone's
no-
might be encroaching on
Oh,
it.
okay, all right, so it's
And
not,
I could swear that we had chains, and if we don't have, I thought it was blocked off so that no one could enjoy use of it.
okay.
But actually, the people who've been occupying apartments in the back up to
They
this.
have parking that is,
Yeah,
that is
that,
parked.
it's
Behind the
not
buildings
anything
on
to
Main
do with
Street.
the town property
No.
that they've
No.
acquired. It's the pre-existing. There's one that's there, I think,
That parcel
Sean
is
and
536.
Cheryl,
Yeah, and then,
purchased, and then,
Jerry Gallo owns one. He has a
okay,
gun store.
the gun
Yep,
shop,
there's property behind that.
and then Kent Pizza Building.
Yep.
So they've got tenants, and,
that park behind there, that
Yeah,
right,
access that through that
And
common
that's
right of way.
also been used for fire department access for those buildings, is when the fire was in Kent Pizza and the apartments
Oh.
above. That's how we accessed that, both from Main Street and up there.
To get it from both sides.
Right,
yeah. Huh, well, that's interesting.
yeah.
Why do you throw those things in? Because that's
Yeah, really,
very
it's just-
important.
yeah.
I
Just
was
like,
there, because we had our wood trucking from Winchester up there, so, in the backside, so.
that's a tough
yeah.
place to get
Yeah.
too big a piece
Right.
of equipment.
That's why we put that in there. so.
Yeah,
To put, what did you put in there? I
Well,
missed
Our
it.
fire truck from Winchester, the big four-wheel
to
drive.
fit into that right away,
Yeah.
it's not big.
No,
Just big enough to be a headache.
Yeah, but it affords,
Yes,
some,
access to the back of
you know,
those
life
buildings,
safety
right?
access, which is, so hopefully, in the discussions on this RFP, that somebody's talking about how important that area is, because apparently the landlords have not been too
So
responsive.
this committee put out a RFP?
No, the town.
Town.
I thought this was a committee of the town.
Oh, correct, I thought you meant this
Yeah,
committee.
no, yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
yep.
All right, so that, yeah, thanks for, I sent it over to you because I thought there might be some activity that you might have in files that we would be able to say, has there been any action on it? None? Okay.
No,
All right. Okay,
Looks
so
like
that's,
he needs a visit to the dentist.
there you go.
Terrible.
All right. Staff report?
So, just to update you on, there was a zoning violation issued for, 428 East Wakefield for an illegal shed. There is one, if it hasn't been issued, there's, cease and desist or wetlands. I could swear that he had also issued a zoning violation on that property on North Main Street, which, is a very steep area where, we're having a tough time having the current owner, unless, giving him a real solid understanding of what he's undertaking without permits. I think there's an injunction coming that Kevin's gonna be filing in court, cause he's just not,
What's the address on North Main?
it doesn't have a number,
Oh.
but it's just before, he's currently using driveway access where the fire was, where there
The
were,
house burnt?
yes.
Okay, past the sewer plant.
So he's
Oh,
using that
okay.
driveway to
Trill's
access
house.
it, and he's
Okay.
cutting in a driveway
Oh.
on a very, very steep.
Oh, yeah,
So-
okay, I know what you're talking about,
No.
yeah.
Yep, so, new hair salon going in at 10 Bridge Street, Winston Pond sign will be gone soon.
The which?
The Winston Pond sign,
Oh,
pawn
oh.
shop, is going to be, the home of a new photographer who is from Rhode Island and does a lot of school shoots.
Oh,
It'll be by appointment only. She may host master classes too, because she's a very experienced photographer for novices. Primo Restaurant, I heard it from a gentleman who's been coming in. He's looking at different properties to put in a convenience store. He had looked at Primo's, and he's looking for around 3,000 square feet. Convenience store is not a allowed permitted use in the town center zone. So I had brought up Primo because I could swear that Primo was zoned town gateway, but before I even checked to confirm, he said that it's been sold and it's gonna be another restaurant. So nothing's come in through the building department, but I'm sure that
I know
they
it's been sold, I'd seen that, but,
Hmm.
yeah.
So that's
Good.
good news. That's all I have.
What's going on with the chicken place?
Chicken place at Wendy's,
Next to-
Yeah,
good.
where Wendy's was.
she hasn't come in yet, but it sounded
And
like,
it's all over Facebook that they're gonna do that.
I agree, I believe it, because she's, and I think it's gonna be a really great addition to town.
Yeah.
She knows what she's doing, she
That's the
vet-
same one that had been looking at Primo
Yes, yep.
last year?
Yep,
Hmm.
so, she definitely does her due diligence and probably, why she has no problem succeeding,
Right.
so.
And how about the, old Cumbies? Is there any word on what's gonna happen there? They're gonna keep them both?
According to this fellow who came in today, he believes that they are.
Really? Surprised,
I am surprised too, because one is obviously different than the other,
right?
and so, but that's fine, because if they do, I expect that they'll make improvements to the older one, because that's not the way they operate.
Yeah, they'll be updated.
They're into, very modern looking, clean, not that there's anything wrong with, it's just dated, a
Just-
little
yeah,
bit
it's
dated, and
dated,
it could be that I think that what had initiated their application, prior to COVID is, maybe the life of the tanks, once the tanks are 25 years old, you have to change them, whether they're needed or not.
Right.
They might just be waiting until they get
Most
that
likely.
last little bit of life out of that, and then maybe we'll see a major overhaul.
That makes sense.
Good point. We had asked about, like this thing in the Highland Lake Business District, is that, have we done anything with
I
notifying
haven't, but
anybody?
I will get that on.
Okay.
It's, the 35-day, it's been more flexible with COVID, because everything, they are accepting emails.
Mhm.
The town clerks don't require 35 days, it's just the COG, so I'll check with them on their flexibility to,
Okay.
around what matches our regular meeting schedule.
Okay, all right. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, let's take up this cannabis. Now Pam, why don't you give a little background on what you provided to us?
Sure, so, I know you had looked at Great Barrington, you had forwarded over to me some sample language. I went through and our zoning regs, and I almost think that what we have currently, you would only need to tweak slightly. Because, so I did a red line version based off of, what you had sent me, George.
Okay.
And taking out some of the stuff that, I didn't put it exactly in your format, just because it,
No, I
Need
just
not
wanted
be.
something to get us, so we had
Yeah.
something to discuss from, yeah.
so, the zones that you, suggested, I took out the word, medical and included it, because really, there would be no difference in terms of regulating between a medical or a recreational. And you already had medical allowed in TC, TG, and PI. And then, some of the, the language that you had in terms of a site plan review required, that was already noted. There were some overlaps, so.
Just, let's do a simple thing first. The hours of operation, what I put in there was what Great Barrington has, but.
Yeah, they actually let them stay open until 11 at
I was
night.
just
By
gonna
their
ask that
regulation,
question.
but it's maybe a little bit crazy.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of,
So what would you think?
I was thinking, like, 9, I mean,
Yeah, what's the, like, noise
something similar
ordinance,
with package
10
stores or
o'clock
something like that. I mean, the state regulates the package store, so, now, the
Right.
state regulations, I don't think had any hours of operations in it, did they?
That, I don't know, that's.
I don't know, I mean, I
Whatever we've
haven't
gotta
even looked
do.
at it that close, but,
But we could come up with a draft and then send it
Yeah.
up to Kevin so he could do the fine tuning on it.
Well, the state, George, I looked it over, it lets the town regulate as to
Hours.
terms of hours and
hours of
signage.
operation. I mean,
I was
I'm
gonna say,
thinking
I don't
9
think they're all the
PM,
same.
but,
I
Yeah.
don't think even in Massachusetts, they're all the same. I
Yeah,
think they
so,
all have
but
different
but
hours.
the state thing lets you,
Okay,
gives the
all right.
local
So what's-
discretion as to hours.
So what's the thought, 9?
that was my,
9,
For this
long as
town, I think
McDonald's
that'd
is
be
open.
plenty of-
Yeah, right, exactly.
24 hours a day.
yeah, 24/7.
As long as you can get a Happy Meal, it's open.
Yeah,
That's why I say keep McDonald's open 24 hours.
No, actually, they don't, so.
Yeah, all right.
and the other thing is, George, is it's, that regulates the size of the facility from 2,000 to 10,000 square feet. I don't know if that's in
I don't
here.
know, we're,
No, That's from the state
oh,
on regulating,
Is that for regulating
no,
medical?
recreational
Oh,
cannabis.
the state already has that posted?
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
think they even had that yet.
Yeah.
I
So the-
prefer- yeah, go ahead.
So, I just picked out the most obvious
Sure,
things.
sure.
The size of the facility, the hours and signage, and the proximity to other establishments can all be regulated by the
Okay,
local.
all right.
Yeah,
Good.
I was concerned with the 200 feet from schools, that we should look at increasing that to 500 or 1,000.
What do we have for liquor? I have to look, I don't remember.
That's a good.
I don't remember, I thought it was 1,500 feet, but.
That was one of the things that somebody was saying to
Yeah.
me, that,
I didn't look at that.
And I think we gotta move out of using this word dispensary and into retail cannabis establishment, because they're different.
yeah,
I mean, this is not any medical connotation, and cannabis is the umbrella term. I mean, marijuana is a plant, but cannabis is all the products of cannabis, THC, CBD, and
That's a
marijuana.
good point.
So
good
it's a
point.
broader
Yeah, I think that's,
definition.
it's better, yep. I confess I didn't look that up.
So we either I guess add that, because we want regulations also for medical marijuana dispensaries, don't we? They're different creatures.
Well, we've
We've already,
Yes. Oh, I see. So this would not, Pam,
No,
this wouldn't
medical marijuana
supplant
was
this.
approved 4 years ago.
Yeah,
or more.
right. But this wasn't, so this
Right,
wasn't.
our regs didn't have, the use and the use table was still, I was just looking at,
Yeah,
my computer went.
medical.
Yes,
Right.
but the definition within, the special regulations section did not have the term medical. I don't know when it got changed.
Okay.
It was just
Good.
known as as marijuana facilities. So your suggestion is to have two distinct,
Because they
yes,
are,
yes,
yeah. And under state law, they're two distinct things.
Yeah.
Medical dispensaries it's a different grade and a different form of,
But won't they, like,
and you can't
merge?
you can't get into those either.
Well,
This
the one
is-
that you're talking about in Great Barrington, now this is another state.
Well, those are retail
They're both.
places. They're all retail up there, those places. They're, what do you mean?
No,
Oh.
Theory Medical is also medical.
I see.
But they are also, I've been checking it too,
Recreational.
they're also
Recreational.
recreational,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
so
Not
if you
all
can
of
get into
So it
one,
can
you
be
can
both.
you can enter no
You
more.
direct it, yeah.
Like, I think medical marijuana, it was a lot more restricted and
Exactly.
Yes,
secure.
very
Yes.
restricted.
Yes.
Now, with recreational being okay, it probably doesn't have that same
Because
level
medical
of
was,
security, would it?
Yeah,
They
they all
had,
go through the same
appointments were
door.
required with the medical ones, you had to have the
Is that still the
Yeah,
case?
yes. Yeah, because
Medical.
it's different product.
And recreational, you can just show up like a package store.
But I think you'll see, in the future, you won't see much of a change, your medical will be on one side and your
Yes. that's what
And
they
your
do now.
recreational will be on the other side of the same building.
Yeah.
The only
So-
difference is gonna be is
Yeah.
recreational is gonna pay the tax where medical won't.
Well,
And so is it possible that
It'll be like in one building.
so while it might be more difficult to gain access, as a purchaser or as a user, zoning wise, need it be different? The rules?
I can't see why.
Not if you're doing it the way they're doing it in Massachusetts. That's the only thing.
It's
I
pretty
can
much the
say.
state's
Which is the
controlling
same,
it.
same one.
Right.
State's controlling
Yeah.
how it's distributed. We're only saying whether it can be allowed and where,
Right,
and,
because to have two separate sets of regulations, is it necessary or?
Well, that's it. I think that would be a question for Kevin.
Kevin.
Kevin, maybe, yeah.
Marijuana dispensaries and retail cannabis establishments. So it's just definitional
Yeah,
at
I
this
look-
point.
I didn't
Yeah.
see anything, but,
Yeah, I know, we talked about, years ago in the old regulations, we used to have specific references with regards to schools and so
right,
forth.
it used to be like 1,500 feet or something like that.
Well, still got the old regulations back in the file, so. All right, so we've got
I don't know.
the distance issue. And then what we've been talking about is the
Size, oh,
size of the facility.
yeah, between 2 and 10,000 square feet.
Under the, I had under the discontinuance of use, where they have to, required to remove all material and everything else, I just wanted to add signage. If they have signage on this one that you would,
Yeah, okay.
proposed draft.
Yeah.
But, to remove all signage,
After the word equipment?
you know, under equipment and other paraphernalia in
Yeah.
compliance with the
Yeah,
building
right.
regulations.
But,
Specifically mentioned signage, because we have
Yeah.
that problem with buildings now,
Yeah,
Right.
You're right, that's a good point.
so. The other thing I thought about, and I mean, most of our regulations, depending on the building, is occupancy, capacity, and parking.
Yeah, that was my question.
Whether we wanna dictate that or regulate it further than, or not.
Well, your occupancy is.
By square footage.
The fire marshal kind of
Right.
evaluation of the space and your needs of egress.
Yeah,
So wouldn't the occupancy based on the size of the facility?
it
be
should,
dictated by
it's
that?
just notes I'd written down there, that
Yeah.
and parking, just so it doesn't turn into a disaster with parking.
Well, I know that,
Because it did in Great Barrington when it first started.
Right.
Yeah, but
That's
that
exactly
Now they
what
have
I was
more
thinking.
open, and
Yeah.
it's not
They
a
have the whole
problem.
police force out there
Right,
trying to control it.
yes.
I don't think there's gonna be an issue with parking.
No, I don't think so, no.
since they've, opening it up, see, up there, I mean, even in that one town, they've got multiple
Now they do,
locations.
right. When they only had one, it was an issue.
But they're talking about only having one in a specific size community.
Right.
So
That's what
we're
Connecticut's
kind of
talking.
limited here with,
Mhm.
so that might be a problem.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Under outdoor grow in your proposed ordinance here,
Yes.
you've got, no growing within 50 feet of a property line.
Yeah.
So cannabis has got quite an odor to it when it grows, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Does it?
Yeah.
Grows?
Huh?
When it grows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, if you're gonna allow a grow facility within 50 feet of a property line, I know that was one of the big things up in Massachusetts here a while ago in our neighboring town, that they were all worried about the odors coming out.
Yeah, Sheffield was.
Yeah, and, you've got greenhouses growing, they gotta control the odor, and if you're gonna allow outdoor grow, and you've got a big row, people growing it outdoors, commercially, and you've got a house 100 feet away, all they're gonna be doing is breathing cannabis the whole time.
Yeah.
So, that has to be somehow addressed.
Yeah, I mean, there's states that have already gone through this, so I wonder if we could get some information.
I was thinking, public information, right?
Oh, yeah, oh, sure.
Yeah, we looked at the Great Barrington.
Yeah, but that's where that came from.
Yeah.
State
Because that
Barrington.
just made me think too, what about for recreational growing? Like, what if your neighbor wants to grow pot or whatever? They do that in Massachusetts as well.
Oh, and that's part of the Connecticut law.
Yeah,
They've
it is.
allowed that too.
Yeah.
Right,
Up
but,
to like
recreational
five
growing,
plants,
what
six
is it,
plants
how
or
many plants are
something?
they
I think
limited to?
5 plants or something
5
like that. It
plants.
was-
That's
That's
not like
per
you had
person,
a
so
quarter of an acre growing.
if there's,
One
two
plant
adults.
may
This
go.
wouldn't allow that.
There's a lot of odor.
Pardon me?
Yeah, this wouldn't allow that.
This
No,
wouldn't
no, this
allow-
wouldn't allow it, but the state allows it.
But again, relegated
personal
to
use.
local control,
I'd be
local
really mad.
control.
And dirty.
Because that's for
Or is
personal,
it, does it fall under the farming? I don't know.
it's for personal use, so it's not regulated.
Oh, it
But when
travels.
people, if it's not expressly allowed, then it's prohibited.
Guy opened
So
a
when
jar.
people come in
showed
and
it
they
to me.
have a proposal
And I
they'd like to
smelled-
do,
just smelled the
we
jar.
have to try to,
It was just
well,
like-
let's look within the regs where it's permitted.
Yeah.
And growing, I guess if the state,
It could
select-
be
you know,
small
this is where-
farm, considered,
Exactly.
there's a
So-
lot of loopholes.
Grow
that could be-
tomatoes,
So you don't like to put a lot of
Gotta be somebody growing.
prohibitions
No.
within your regs, but sometimes there
Well,
have been
and that-
areas where you have.
Well, that's
Skunk
why I
ain't
brought it up,
spraying every
because
day I
don't
go
see
by,
in here where we were addressing it, and it could be a concern. And I can
So-
see where people would, think they could do it, without having to come
Well-
and get a zoning permit.
Yeah, well, this is,
You mean like the backyard
Yeah, like
gardener,
yeah,
just putting in
exactly.
2 or 3
Yeah,
plants?
exactly.
Is that gonna be an issue though, from what you're saying? I mean, isn't it if you have like fields of it growing, you get that, even with one, you get that kind of
Oh, yeah.
bad aroma?
I'm not gonna throw all my knowledge on this subject, but, yes.
It may be objectionable, you know, it's.
There's a lot of it in Norfolk, so.
Yeah, this is back when I was a teenager.
Growing in the woods in
I
Norfolk.
used to grow them in my window in my bedroom.
Stop.
no,
But anyway, no, it does, it's very strong, pungent, depending on the
Yeah, they grow
type.
places that grow it indoors, they use high-tech filtration systems. You
Yeah.
wouldn't know anything. But if you're just growing it out in the field or in your yard, I mean,
You can smell it.
yeah.
I don't know if any of you guys remember, oh, this goes way back, this is probably 20 years ago. There was a facility in Sanesfield.
Oh, yeah.
There was a barn,
Yeah,
and they were growing marijuana in there for years.
A lot of
Nobody
it.
knew anything.
yeah.
Their exhaust system failed, and the odor is what got them caught because it
It's
was
electrical
going.
use.
Yeah, and, well,
That's
that
what
too.
turned them in.
But they know how to hide that. They know how to get around that. But the odor I remember got the guy caught, and his exhaust system failed, and it is pungent. And I mean, this is what I was going to bring up. I mean, there's several things. Like when I was zoning officer in Harwington, it started to come in up there, and I think I spoke of this at an earlier meeting. But hemp, that's going to be a big thing. They're doing a lot of work with hemp and products of that sort.
Right.
Yeah.
That is no different than marijuana, other than they don't use the THC out of it. You can get that THC out of hemp. We had a gentleman come in that was gonna do a facility, and he was highly educated on the matter, and he really laid it out to the commission exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
But these are things that, if we're gonna do regulations on establishments in town, we might wanna piggyback and do subsections for, personal use or personal growing on personal property. Because this stuff there's no regulations. Right now, I could get hemp seeds and fill up my whole backyard with hemp, and it's gonna smell like marijuana, and it's not. So we can do that too. So that's what I'm saying. I don't know if you wanna get that far into it, but it is gonna be coming.
Have you looked at the Harwington regulations recently?
There was none
Oh,
when they
there
came
were
in.
none.
There are
Okay.
absolutely no regulations. The
Okay.
gentleman was able to do whatever he wanted.
Got it. Okay.
They were, as I was leaving, they were looking into making some regulations for that because they saw, that this could be a problem. So, I mean, even if it looks like marijuana, it's unsecured. I mean, this guy could grow 100 plants because it's not marijuana, but it looks like marijuana. So the commission was trying to put conditions like he needed to make sure it was behind a fence or, just we couldn't
Yeah,
tell him he had to lock it up, but I mean, and he understood that because, that's, people would go and steal his plants, so that was a precaution he was gonna take anyway,
for his
but,
own security, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, you've got that in here, Pam and George, that number 9 there, candidates cannot be not grown inside a securable, shall be enclosed within a 6-foot-high fence, screened from view, from a public way or from a protected use as much as possible. So we're starting to address that.
I think some sort of regulations should be put, even if they're minimal, at least something to start. So we have something to go by if an application comes before us.
Yeah.
So this would go beyond this. I mean, what it's kind of been, this rough draft is a,
Just the
for
starting point.
Retail.
Yeah,
retail
Yeah.
cannabis sales facility. So you're suggesting it go beyond that into private.
I would go crazy, but I think we should have some kind of language in there. Something to protect us,
And
to
maybe
give
it's
us,
even a separate
a
section
jump
on
on
the
if
same-
this does come in front of us.
And I, as much as possible is never, is a little weak. You either want it screened, or, yes, the special permit,
No, I know, that language would have to go, but, yeah.
Can a
but the-
town opt out of having you do recreational grow at all? I mean, can they make that rule and say there's just no recreational grow allowed
yeah,
in
of
this
course.
area?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you just put that in there. I mean, people are probably still gonna do it, but at least you have it in there.
Well, it's not against the law, it's just against the regulations.
Right.
Right,
Exactly.
it's not criminalized, it's just whether or not
So
it's a
maybe it's
permitted
as simple
in
as
this town.
that,
Right.
but.
And it's not like you can hide it.
You could buy alcohol since, the thirties, but you couldn't buy it in, Bridgewater. Because they didn't have any package
Right.
stores,
Right.
and they
Yeah,
didn't
they
allow.
were doing that in Massachusetts. Some towns were dry and other
Same as
towns-
Bloomfield.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't that be under a town ordinance, that you weren't allowed to grow in town limits? Or would that wouldn't be a zoning regulation? I don't think.
No,
It
I mean,
would
a
be an
town ordinance is when, you don't want any kind of, like a moratorium.
Well, that's, yeah, if you're prohibiting any recreational,
But we could
Growth.
still allow a retail location, but we wouldn't allow residential growing.
but your point is whether that would be done by zoning regulation or ordinance,
Yeah.
and
Right.
it might more likely be by ordinance.
That's what I think.
A lot of times when you do it by ordinance, it's to take away any type of grandfathering.
Right.
So if you already, if you,
Well, it's a problem.
Yeah.
Right now,
There shouldn't be any
grandfather,
grandfathering
right?
of growing marijuana
Probably
because
gotta
it's been
grandfather
illegal
now.
Yeah.
until recently, so.
a moratorium prevents someone coming in, because anyone can apply. If you had someone who was just waiting for this moment in time,
Yeah.
they could not circumvent you guys, but beat you to it, like already come in, have the proposed text amendment, have the special permit application, be all set. And a moratorium would have said no,
Yeah,
but,
until pending regulation and so
yeah.
forth.
I mean,
So,
I'm
I
just
mean-
throwing it out there. I'm not saying that's what
yeah, no,
we do.
if you're not looking for that part of it, and you wanna be crystal clear, you could,
Well, we're trying to address the facilities for
Right.
sale.
but not dispensing,
No.
you're calling it what, Charlene, recreational marijuana,
Versus,
Yeah, retail cannabis sales.
Establishment, yeah.
retail cannabis sales.
Yes. Connecticut recreational, I don't even know, do we have a recreational cannabis control commission, or is it consumer protection?
I don't know, yeah.
I mean, we try to put some wording in here, and then let the legal
What,
guys
this?
figure out what the proper wording would be.
This is kind of coming out of,
Well, they'll have to
Great
get a
Barrington's
license
using,
to
or
sell.
like
And the
lifting,
license will be just like in an
for
alcohol
purposes of
license, it's gonna
discussion.
spell out how you can do
Oh,
it.
that
Yeah,
does-
yeah, but I mean.
That
the-
comes from
but-
consumer
but-
protection.
But is it consumer protection, or is it some separate
that's a good question.
organization?
It was consumer protection for medical.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds
But I
But
think
that's
this-
something Kevin would look
Yeah,
up and say,
yeah, exactly.
this is what it should be labeled, and we can put that in, because whenever we come up for a draft, he's gonna have to review it before we go and put it
Right.
forward for a
Mhm.
public hearing.
But I agree that the distance should be increased. You've got 200 feet in this draft here, George, it should be more than that.
Yeah, we need to
For whatever-
increase that.
And,
And you can also decide you'll only permit one to be in town.
We could do that too.
You don't have to do like Great Barrington has, what about it?
No, but the state is saying they're only gonna, but
That's right. Oh, that's right,
One.
that's right,
based on the size of the, you know,
yeah,
area. But that could change too.
yes,
Right.
yeah.
yeah, because the money that they bring in, if they are successful.
Well, I think that's why the decision's
tax
being
money
made,
also.
frankly.
That's
It's
why they keep
it's
putting
another
up in Great
decision.
Barrington.
Revenue
Yeah.
So is it possible
Package stores.
if we were, because so much of this is the same, for the operation, the first line of this, marijuana facilities, the commission may grant after holding a public hearing a special permit for the operation of a licensed marijuana dispensary facility or a retail cannabis sales establishment.
Well, dispensary facility, we would not put, it would be, this,
Well, you wanna
Well,
have
you
this
wanna
so-
cover all the ground,
medical
right?
mar- yeah.
Because medical marijuana
You want
is,
medical and
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
recreational.
so
Alright.
just add to that the retail.
Yeah, retail cannabis sales.
Establishment,
Yeah.
yeah, facility, yeah.
It's great that you already had all this.
So appropriate dispensary facility permit, and then or whatever the permit is called for
Yes.
recreational cannabis,
Right.
comma, as the case may be, comma,
Right,
issued by the state of Connecticut Department of Consumer Protection or other state agency as regulatory changes occur. So that way,
Good. Yeah,
you
cover
can
it.
just leave it, you know?
It doesn't, it just can flow with
yeah,
whatever.
a
it is.
general
Yeah.
umbrella statement, yes.
Yeah.
True, Yep, good.
Mhm.
And
And that's an interesting point there. No medical marijuana dispensary shall, facility allowed in the same building structure or portion thereof that's used for residential purposes. Would that be the same for a retail establishment?
yeah, and you want
Yes.
to consider that,
Yep.
because if
So
you,
that it can't be downtown?
right, if you see this downtown on Main Street, well, that eliminates that.
Right.
Yeah, it can't be in a storefront downtown.
Geez.
Because
You
you got
residential upstairs.
residential upstairs,
Mhm.
yeah.
And is that?
And why not? Because, I mean, you don't smoke it. You can't, somewhere else in here it says you
can't.
can't consume on the
True.
premises. So why can't it be, why can't the sales of it be in the,
It's,
Well, that's why we
It's
put
up
it
to
in
you
here
folks.
to discuss,
Yeah.
so.
well, I'm,
So,
because,
so you,
boy, to take,
Well, you put it
take
in
another.
Lexbrook Plaza or someplace like that, or, you know, I mean, it's,
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
there's another
Well, why
retail
can't you have-
opportunity lost to downtown.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got so many empty storefronts.
well, then you go with the parking problem again.
Right, yeah.
Permit problem, I missed that. What's
Park
the
on Main
apartment
Street and
problem?
walk.
What?
Here, 5-4. 5-4. Not allowed in the same building that has residential purposes, used for residential purposes.
I mean, I think really that puts Main Street under, I mean,
Yeah, I don't think you wanna do that.
I mean, you could put it in 10 Bridge Street, you could put it in Capital Products, you could put it in, you know, Meadow Street, the buildings up there.
Put it in the front of the old Super Saver building.
Right, exactly. There's 3,000 feet plus there
Yeah.
for rent.
That's right,
You know?
there's no residential.
Yeah,
down near
there's
the
no residential in that.
over it.
Right, right.
So, I mean, we do have places that
Could be, except that,
would allow it based on that.
So then we'll just change no medical marijuana dispensary facility, or recreational cannabis sales facility shall be allowed within the same building structure or portion thereof. So
For residential
use-
purposes,
keep that,
yes.
is that consensus?
Yep.
Okay. So now do you wanna look at,
distance,
yeah,
closer than how many feet from a, that's just schools. You could also say, well, I mean,
And what did,
and is this as the crow flies? Is this from door
Yeah.
to door?
yeah.
Cause I remember, when
course
the,
it'll be
when it was, when the medical marijuana dispensary was approved at the old KFC building.
Right.
Was it door to door or boundary line to
Well,
boundary line?
out of the Great Barrington, the distance is measured in a straight line from the nearest point of the property line of the proposed retail cannabis establishment and the nearest point of the property line of the protected uses.
that makes sense.
So
Oh.
boundary line to boundary
I
line.
would say
Yeah.
boundary line to boundary line.
Yeah.
Between
So
two.
why don't we use that?
We have that already in here?
That's-
Yeah,
well, it's
look
in
at
what
the
my draft.
Location requirements.
Yeah.
Under
Use it,
location
yeah.
requirements.
Alright, so that will get added up to,
So do you want to increase 200 feet though?
Yes.
Public or private school or,
Yeah,
Yeah, so-
200 feet, is that what it is?
so, what
Well,
was
no,
that?
that's what was in the
Great
Great
Barrington one?
Barrington. We can set whatever we feel is responsible.
Well, you have a school downtown at Hinsdale.
And how far is it from, does it need to be from the school?
Well, that's what we're talking
That's what we
about,
gotta
from the
decide.
property line that the school is
So
occupying.
in Great Barrington, they can have
200 feet. they say
200
what
feet
they
away
say.
from the school?
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
that seems kinda,
Yeah,
Well,
that's
Close.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what this came out of. I just wanted to
Okay,
use
so
something
we
to
want
start
something
with.
more than
There's
that,
no
so it
schools
can't be
downtown
across the
right now.
street in the
Pardon
Dunkin'
me?
Donuts.
There's no schools in Great Barrington.
No, everything's
Everything's
up off of
on
Route
the
7.
mountain.
They're up on the mountain.
All I'm saying is this came out of
Yeah.
the
Primary, middle school, and
regulations.
high
Right.
school are all up there.
Yeah, so they know that, and
Yeah,
then, so
they have nothing downtown.
Right, right.
So
To worry about.
what's the suggestion?
For footage, or distance?
Distance?
I mean, even if you put
Just
1,500, we're not gonna hit anything other than the college.
Well, just bear in mind, if you're thinking, just for ha-has, if that Bank of America building should ever be occupied by, say, the local Board of Ed for some type of special ed intervention, where, to 10 Bridge Street, and you see this going in 10 Bridge Street, what's that distance?
Right.
And is that objectionable?
All right, let's do this, because we're not gonna decide this tonight about the distance, but let's think more about that, and then let's actually look at a downtown map and start saying, okay, where do we have facilities
Because we
now?
have so many schools.
And
Where's
what are
ex-
we gonna
where's
exclude from the
explorations?
potential use?
Spencer Street?
Okay.
I mean, we gotta think about the college too, because
Right.
what if you use part of the park?
You've got the college, right?
Yeah.
What if, you know, say the insurance agents goes out of business, you know,
Yeah,
Allstate
this,
or whatever, and
this
you
is
wanna use
limited
that
to,
building.
Grades
to,
12.
grades 1 through 12.
Oh, is that what, that's what I was
Yeah.
saying,
Oh,
that's a
okay.
college too.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Different.
1 through 12, so
I mean,
eliminate
If
the
you're
college.
doing one,
I know, one
if you're only
through
doing
10, I
1
mean-
through 12,
Yeah.
then that's not
Yeah.
counting your daycare.
Well, we don't wanna put something in here.
Or
No,
that's-
it's
preschool,
preschool,
kindergarten, yeah, okay.
Sometimes distances are used to actually exclude uses, because it's so restrictive.
Well, I think, you know, looking at it, 500 may be fair, you know, looking at what we've got downtown.
so if you go from, the daycare
Yep.
up on Prospect Street,
Yeah.
500 gets across the river into the front of Main Street there, right? But those are all
Yeah.
residential places too.
Right.
All right, so it's an issue that has to be looked at
But
a
I
little
mean,
bit, but.
didn't they already, what is the distance that they came up with when they were doing the one in, because I was here when they were doing.
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
They squeaked by.
They just, because they got the
Because
school right
they,
up there on the hill.
and it wasn't our regs, it was the state.
Oh,
And we didn't, our reg, you know, is it measured door to door? Because door to door was more beneficial to the applicant rather than site to
This
site,
location to, yeah.
according to the state. And the state was kind of gray with it, and so it was really kind of left to this commission.
Yeah, we gotta think about that, because we could lose some potential
Yeah,
areas.
It should be door to door. Not property line to property line.
okay. All right, just think about it, and then
Yeah.
we can talk about, put it on our next agenda, Pam.
You got a homework assignment, get your wheel,
Yeah.
start measuring.
Well, and also the size, 2,000 to 10,000 square feet, do you wanna, I mean, you don't have to have that whole, you don't have to have that whole range, you can limit it to how,
I wouldn't put a minimum and a maximum would,
Well-
something I would do, probably.
I can tweak this based on the comments tonight
Okay.
and come back with another,
Yeah.
you know, and then look at it again.
All right, that'll be
and
helpful,
of course
Pam.
signage.
Yeah,
Signage is a tough one, because you can't regulate content.
Yeah.
You can say no signage, except for directional, but you can't, you know, what you do is by having it part of the special permit, you make sure that the proposed signage is included with the architecture review committee, where you're not, but you have to caution them that they're only looking at themes, they can't, you know, if they come in, a lot of times when an applicant's trying to get it, they'll be sure to mention that there's no pot leaf in their signage. Like, they make a point of saying that to alleviate, because no one should ask the question, but they're smart enough to give you
Tell
the
you-
answer
tell
without
you
it
ahead
being
of time.
asked, to
Yeah.
give you that
Right.
assurance.
If you drove by Carrie's Wellness, and I do all the time, because we're always up there.
Oh, yeah.
If you didn't know
That's
what's
right.
sold there, you'd never
Yeah.
know what it is.
Yeah,
That's
there
by
is-
There's
design.
nothing
Yeah.
outside that
I mean,
indicate.
they're all,
They don't
they're all,
really have any signs that show
Yeah,
what
nothing,
they're
it's
selling.
like
They
a
don't
pot
need to.
leaf on the
No.
side.
yeah.
Yeah,
the
people
bell,
will find
all that.
it.
Yeah, they're very
It's very low
discreet
key,
and
yeah. And the
tasteful.
buildings, they look like, they look like real estate offices or something.
Yeah, and they have billboards as you go up
Yeah.
that way too.
Yeah, they do
We
have.
got billboards in the state of Connecticut, huge things on Route 8.
For
stuff.
the
by the
Massachusetts
Waterbury.
dispensaries.
Massachusetts
That's
facility.
fine.
Yeah.
Someday this won't seem odd to people.
No.
No,
I
it's
didn't
just
know they
like,
had Massachusetts Culvert in Connecticut.
Oh, yeah.
There's
That
some,
one that's
there's
south,
some
south Great
discussion
Barrier.
going on about that.
Delivered to your
It was
house.
just in
Yeah.
Waterbury,
Wow.
coming
Yeah.
up north, and I said,
Now there's business.
Up in Springfield, big billboards, get it home delivered.
Wow.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did, I saw that, they were doing home delivery, I was like, how are they getting away with
Are
that?
there any other issues on the, on what Pam took stuff that, I had said to everybody or put it out, and she had also utilized it. So look at both of them, and, let's not carry on any business by, even though it's not an application in front of us, but, just, it's not a formal application, but let's talk about it in public so that everybody's aware of what we're doing rather than, especially this subject matter.
Good point, yeah. See if that gets people out here.
I'm actually surprised there hasn't been anybody before us for anything. Actually surprised.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Anyways, I'd rather be proactive with this
Right, I
than
think you are,
reactive.
yeah.
And,
You said you're meeting with Josh on some things?
yeah, I just, I wanna talk to him about, the whole process of the land use, enforcement, the whole thing. He's new in town. We've had some things, Pam's been in the office a long time now. We've got a new CEO. I just wanna make sure how he's thinking about it, and I wanna give him my opinion
Yeah.
about some things. And what I'm gonna give him my opinion about is nothing that I haven't brought up here. I just want us to be, I think we should facilitate growth in this community. I think we ought to be.
Well, it needs to be controlled, but we need to facilitate it, right?
Yeah, and I've said this before, years ago, when I was on the commission earlier, Pam brings us information with regards to ZBA. I think we used to get the reports of what was going on with ZBA. I think if there's something in our regulations that's weak, because they've got a ton of stuff that's coming up that shows a weakness in our regulations, let's be communicating so we could internally
Yeah, if we have to tweak it,
tweak it.
well, it needs to be done,
Because I don't think, as long as I'm sitting here, I want to see us grow, and if we have a regulation, and we feel honestly that it's good, well, let's enforce it. If it's not good, then let's change it, or modify it, or whatever we have to do, or eliminate it. But I think we're here to serve the public, period. We're not here as in some kind of an empire, and so that's my philosophy on it, and I just want to convey that to Josh and make sure he's on board with what we're doing, and
I don't know if you folks follow variances that are given, going,
I read them in the.
you do.
I read the legal notices, that's
Yeah.
what I see, yeah.
Because, if you'd like to have copies of those minutes, including your packages, so you can see, the variances that are being applied for and, are being approved.
Yeah, I just think
So, and sometimes that is very telling of a,
a weak reg.
and
Yeah.
either, depending on how you look at it, if you strongly support the regulation as is, you'll see the weak link as why is ZBA just giving away the farm?
Yeah.
Or alternately, if you think that, well, geez, maybe we should loosen up our regs.
Yeah.
But either way, it can
Yeah.
paint a picture when when you're looking at variances and say, what's going on here?
Sure.
And then you can take take a direction if you are so inclined. By default, and, you know, I think that there could be more training provided to ZBA, because I don't know that they all came on board understanding that the default as a zoning board of appeals member is no, you know, and hardships need to be
Exactly.
demonstrated and need to
Absent
be.
hardship demonstration.
Well,
Because,
Yeah, I mean, it's true, Charlene, but, you know, every time we've gone to these state training things every 2 years, you know, they admit, the bar people, the lawyers that are in this land use specifically, they talk about this hardship thing, it's a very difficult
that most are illegal,
to stay with it, yeah.
yeah.
You've gotta use some common sense, but I mean, still, the way the law is written, you gotta show you know, a hardship, or you don't get it, and that's, like you said, that's the default.
You know, right, Torrington, you know, Jim Steck is an attorney down there, and he's chairman of the zoning board of appeals, and he takes pride in the fact that they seldom meet, because you're not getting one. You're
Yeah.
not getting a variance.
Right.
if
And
you-
would you say our ZBA is giving out a lot of
I would say that
variances?
there's, you know, for any of you that may be following, there's a good thing, a shift in climate in terms of definitely a friendlier, more, less intimidating group if you're happen to be an applicant going before them. But there's, yeah,
I'd say 95%.
or
That's my guess.
if the regs say no, yeah.
And most of them are at the lake.
And I don't know if the commission finds that to be problematic and you want more training of your CBA members, because they may not, you know, understand the, you know, and it might be a roundtable discussion that you have with them so that they understand why the regs are what they are, why they're so restrictive,
It
because.
might be a joint meeting between the two.
That's a good point, Peter, but that's another reason why this, the new Public Act requires training of our land
It's not
use.
a bad thing, in
Oh,
my
no,
mind.
I
No, no,
totally
not at
agree.
all.
I mean, we do it voluntarily, or we have, I think everybody on this commission has, but there are commissions that,
For one reason or another, you know, either
Yeah.
don't make the trainings that are planned, or, you know, the
Yeah.
towns are lax in planning them, whatever the case is, you know, if
Yeah.
we have one or two and you miss them, well, there goes your opportunity. If you're a
Sure.
new member and you've never been to one, maybe no one's ever told you that, no, you are the board that says no. You start with no, and you really,
no, I agree, I think that part of the Public Act is very valid. But that's why I bring it up, because just what you said is, if they're given variances, you know, that much, then let's have a little chat about it and say, you know, are we too restrictive in what we put forward on our you know, regulations? And why is it too restrictive, and why do you need to waive it? So, okay, well, it's another thing that's been, you know, on my mind for as long as I've been in this stuff. So, any other comments? Well, it's 9:30.
It's hard to believe we're here that late.
You're gonna get home early then.
Past my bedtime.
I'll make a motion to adjourn then.
I
Second.
second.
Okay,
You can have it. Give it to the new girl.
All in favor? Thanks, everybody.
Unanimous.
Okay, back at that.
Hurry up, get your sleep now before it snows.
Yeah,
all right, we're done with that?
no,
No, no.
Are we really?
yeah.
No, we'll have it next week.
You guys will get dusting and I'll get 5 inches.
That's good.
Send us pictures.
Just
I
pray,
will,
just
don't
pray,
worry.
pray it freezes
Call you up
first.
at 3 a.m., George, and say, hey, how you doing? I'm on my 10th cup of